Welcome to the Security Cocktail Hour. I'm Joe Patty.
Adam Roth.
Yes, you're Adam Roth. How are you doing today, Adam?
Well, I had an identity issue for a second, so you know how it goes in cybersecurity. Sometimes you are who you are, and sometimes you're not.
That is really deep. Identity management is one of the trickiest parts of security, but knowing who you are, that's a little too metaphysical, and I think we need to get into right here.
We could do a whole podcast on that one day.
Okay. Well, I know someone who is definitely not Adam Roth. We have a guest today, Nathali Cano. Hi, Natalie. How are you?
Hi guys, I'm doing great. How are you?
Okay. Glad we were able to connect. This recording was actually delayed for a bit.
Yes.
You were
What?
sick.
I think it's
Forget
4 or 5
whatever
years
about
now.
you.
Oh, come on, Adam. It's not that bad.
4 or 5 weeks.
Yes, more like it. Yes.
Okay.
I had good reasons.
No, you did. You did.
Well, we're glad you're okay, and it just goes to show the audience if you decide to go on this show, we're not giving up. We're going to keep hounding you until you're finally.
Well,
That you very insistent.
Natalie, I'll tell you one.
Really, Adam.
We had
That's
an
right.
attorney once, and the attorney said it's not stalking if you're not successful. So, we did have an attorney talking about. I've been stalking a certain actor, trying to get him on the show, and I have not given up yet.
Wow. Okay, you're admitting it.
Yeah, we're on the record, unfortunately, but in any case, so we are here, and today, well, we got a diversity of beverages here today. I
Do we?
know
Okay.
I've got a margarita that I thought was the show beverage. What do you? Oh, you
Oh, come
okay?
on,
Adam's
Adam.
gonna
You were supposed to have a margarita too. I was the only one that was. Again, I have another excuse. This is a margarita glass with chocolate milk.
the chocolate
I'm
milk.
on
Well,
meds.
that's actually a very nice glass. I
Thank you. Let me show it again. Look, let's appreciate this.
I used to love chocolate milk when I was a kid. Why don't
Oh,
I
I
drink
still do.
chocolate milk
Honestly, I
anymore?
never
So let's go
uh,
back to the chocolate egg cream
love
again.
it.
That's right. We could do a chocolate egg cream. Get a very New York,
Oh
I
So
yes,
suppose.
Adam was
we're gonna have to do an
basically
after. We're gonna do an after party, Joe, about how to make a good chocolate egg cream.
So an after party
okay.
on not
This is
how to
becoming a
not
thing
party.
now.
Yeah, seriously.
Adam
Well,
is taking it very seriously.
really.
I
Well,
take my
cheers in
egg
any
cream
case.
seriously.
So
I take everything seriously.
Okay.
yes. All right. So Natalie, we're glad to have you on because I have really been looking forward to talking to you because your
Oh,
story is absolutely fascinating, I think,
thank you.
and
Thank you so
unique.
much.
And I have met a lot of people in security over the years, and I don't think I met anyone with a background like yours. It's
Wait. Let
really
me be
interesting.
self-centered, Joe. Her story is
So,
more interesting than mine.
her story about how she got into security is more interesting, Adam. You have many other stories that range from interesting to I don't know what to make of this. So,
Scary.
yeah, does that make you feel better?
Well, let's focus on Natalie. I'm sorry.
Okay, but Natalie, please tell us a little bit about yourself. In particular, let's talk about how you did get into security in your background, because it is really interesting.
Okay. I think I have to go back to the struggle before, like what led me to get into cybersecurity. So the story kind of is cohesive. So some of you already know. I'm the mother of this wonderful child that I love. She's 11, well, she's actually 12 now. And I was a single mom. I mean, the dad was around, but unfortunately, he was just not very present, which made things very difficult for me. Long story short, I always like to say when people say, okay, Natalie, what do you do? I'm a social worker that happens to be a cybersecurity engineer, but I never left social work. So at the time, I was in social work, I was making very little money. I had just a terrible situation happen that it really made me realize. I said, I need to change. I need a real change. I was going through a very difficult situation in my life, probably like, I don't know if someone can relate, but one of those, like the lowest point. And when you're there, there's so much going on in your mind. And one of those things, like I knew I didn't want to experience what I was experiencing again. And I just reached out to this friend who I knew was in a way better connected than I was. And he said, Natalie, how about if you try to get into recruiting? So then he introduced me to this other gentleman, and this person pretty much said, Natalie, you have to pay me $10,000 and I'm going to teach you the ins and outs of recruiting. I said, well, I barely have money to pay my rent, so that's not happening. Anyway, so we worked the deal pretty much. You start paying me once you get a job. So he was that's how convincing he was of his
Oh
process.
God.
But anyway, at the time, I had already had some experience in HR, which is the reason why my friend in the first place said, Natalie, you already have experience in HR. Why don't you get into recruiting? Anyway, so I did that. I started just learning as much as I could prior to me, in a way, reaching out to this gentleman. The funny thing is, the contract was he was supposed to teach me for almost 6 months. We were going to meet 3 times a week for 2 hours, and he was going to just, anyway, like a class and everything. I
Mhm.
had other people. Um, so I set up everything around my life to the point that I could focus on these. I was working again, as I was working as a community support worker. That was my title, which is for pretty much assisting low income families, but at the same time working in child abuse prevention. So I had a workload of over 16, I believe it was, yeah, 12 15 to 16 families I had. What I'm trying to say is I had very little time to do anything else other than my 9 to 5, which was like 9 to 9. But I still accommodated this process that I was interested, because again, I needed a change. Long story short, I asked my manager, I need more free time. So I did so many things for this gentleman to come and say, Natalie, I'm sorry, I have to leave. 2 weeks into the process, this guy leaves.
2 weeks
Mind
into
you,
this.
not even,
How
but
many
that's what I'm
months was
saying.
it
In those,
supposed to be?
it was supposed to be 6 months.
And
But
two
what I'm
weeks into
saying
it.
is, the amount of changes I made in my life and at work to accommodate this process. Pretty much what I did is I told my boss, I will be leaving this job in about 3 months.
Oh
So
wow.
I need you to give me this time, so also you start finding someone. That was the only way. So I'm the reason I'm highlighting these details is to kind of give you an idea of the position that I put myself in. But then this gentleman, pretty much, even though we already signed the contract, he said, there's an emergency, I have to go out of the country. So he only gave me, in those 2 weeks, because of everything that was happening between his health and something that was going on in his, I don't know, he only gave me 2 classes. So with those 2 classes, I said, okay, I can't wait a month and a half until he comes back. I have to do something. So with those 2 classes that he gave me, I went to Amazon. I remember 3 different books. One of them was Rockstar, Recruiting Rockstar. And then I started watching this one guy. I did my own research, and I said, I need to find, some individuals that are teaching on these. So I found this one guy on YouTube who had a whole life cycle explained. And he was putting his content out there for free. But I remember I spent every waking hour that I was not at work, just studying recruiting. Now, fast forward, I will say 3.5 months. No, 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 actually, no, 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 no. A month, because by the time let's just call it my instructor. Once my instructor came back, I explained to him I had already cleared 2 interviews at Amazon. And he couldn't believe it. He was like, I would have never, Natalie, suggested anyone, not even not even individuals that completed the program, to start off of Amazon. You're not gonna make it. So
Natalie,
don't. I can't remember exactly.
I
Yeah, go
interviewed
ahead.
at Amazon as an experienced professional. I got flown to Seattle, and it was one of the most horrible experiences of my life. So I
I
can
know. I
totally
didn't.
relate to
I-
that.
I'm
My
I'm going to tell you
God.
this, Natalie. I am no expert about Amazon, but what I have seen is that there are certain people that naturally can portray the culture of Amazon, and you seem to be a person that has that assertiveness, And you're going to tell me no, you don't have the confidence, but you portray confidence. That's why you got what you got, because you put every ounce of effort into it.
Thank you. Thank you, Adam. But yes, I had to. I honestly believe, and this is now kind of like on the side. I personally believe that when an individual wants to make a radical change, you need to be fed up of the way you have been living.
Yes.
I think that's the only way that you're going to give it all, like completely. And I had no choice but to give it all. I was looking at my daughter. I was looking at my situation. I was just fed up. Every ounce of my being was, I need a change, and it needs to, and if this is how I'm gonna make it, and I have to give it my all. So I had to. Anyway, so by the time this gentleman came back, I had already finished those three books that I bought off of Amazon. And I love reading, but I'm not gonna lie, I'm not one of those that will eat up a book in a book in a week, not even a month. I like reading, but it takes me a while. But again, I had a goal. I needed a change. I needed to be able not to worry about the how am I going to pay the rent. I was just so sick and tired of just being in such a horrible situation, even though I loved what I was doing. I'm still a social worker. Years later, I loved what I was doing, but I did not appreciate how little I was getting paid, the zero opportunities around, and also again I was struggling. I remember I was struggling much more than some of the families that I was assisting. Anyway,
Oh wow.
so by the time I am now interviewing at I'm telling the instructor, so he just put me down like, Natalie, I don't even understand why you did this. What makes you think that you're prepared? And all I said to him, and I said, listen, I just need one thing from you, because at this point you left. I understand situations happen. I didn't put the blame on him, because genuinely I could tell that he was not, like, physically he wasn't well, and there was a lot going on. So I try to be understanding, although I didn't get the same, right? And I remember I just said to him, at this point, I just need you to give me the best you can. Give me, like, because I have the third interview is coming up in 2 days. So if you have anything right now that can help me, even though you don't believe I'm gonna, I need it now. So anyway, he gave me this one class. It, like I said, I think from those three classes he provided, I did get some substance that I was able to provide. But still, everything really came from mostly this gentleman that I found on YouTube. At the same time, I had paid. By the time he said I have to leave 2 days later, I found this program in New York City. I remember I paid like $700, and I paid for this program. Again, that was my savings. I said
Wow.
I gave it all.
God
So
bless you,
I
Natalie.
had no choice. I said I cannot fail at these. Either I make it there or I make it somewhere else, but I have to make it. So anyway, long story short, 4 interviews, and as Joe said, again at the time I didn't have an experience. I didn't have an experience of what was out there for me. That was my first time interviewing at a such large company, and I'm coming from being again, I was supporting one of my mentors at his own company in the HR department and also recruiting. But again, I was just shadowing the recruiting. I was helping. So I'm not going to lie, I did have some experience. But when it came to interviewing at levels not that way, I didn't know what to expect. And that was a really good thing for me. Because for me, it was like, okay, this is what it is. I didn't think it was really hard or really, I just thought it is what it is. This is what they're asking. And by the time that I had the second interview, I had already prepared. So pretty much what I did is, okay, if in the first interview I was asked at this level, I need to prepare at this level for the so that was pretty much what I kept doing. I said, whatever they're asking me in the first one, I'm going to just build up from there. So intentionally, I try to ask them, give me 2 weeks between interviews so I could, like, gain more as much as I can. And that's what I did. So anyway, by the time I cleared the fourth interview, the first one was with a manager. It was two managers and two directors. It was just the most nerve breaking thing, but I made it. I couldn't believe it. Guys, when I tell you that my first day at Amazon, and I was shaking. I'm in this huge building in New York City. The Empire State is right in front of it. All I could think in my mind is like, I
Wow.
made it.
Surreal.
I swear to you, I just could. I was in such a state of shock that
Yeah.
that I made it there. I, I don't know. I mean, I played it cool. I don't think nobody was able to tell. Like, this lady just came from Newark. She came from just assisting families in the worst situations, and now she's had this professional hat on. And I'm like, oh, I've been doing this for a while. You know how you got to play it off. Like, although
I
I was hired as a sorcerer, which is so cool. I love
Yeah.
when people say, "So what is your title?" I'm a sorcerer, which in reality it just means that I was the assistant of a recruiter. In
Mhm.
less than 6 months, I moved 4 levels, which it also like for me, I was in this I was how can I say this? I was in this pattern of winning, and I couldn't understand why until now. I look back and of course, Natalie, I mean, you gave it all. That's why, you were just I felt that, again, I was so scared to fail because I knew that failing at that level meant no money whatsoever, because you already invested everything you had in getting to this job. So for me, failing at that level would mean even a worse situation that I was in. So I think I was just in a state of panic for months. And,
Mhm.
I just kept give it in my all without realizing that, wait, I was the first one to get the first hire. I remember I was hired with 4 people, and I was the first one to get the first hire, which was this one manager who they couldn't find for over 6 months with a team of 5. And then I was hired there, and within exactly 3.5 weeks, I found this individual. And then, it just kept happening. So a part of me believed that it was meant to be. And another part of me was like, you were giving it your all. Like, it just, I was in a state of panic. And I think that
Mhm.
that helped me to certain capacity. Now, when I was there, I was a little bit more stable. I was now kind of like, now given it 6 7 months, I find myself in just kind of like, okay, I think I get it. I'm here now. I'm doing well. People can, people are, I wouldn't say respecting me, because I do believe that Amazon, and it was very difficult to hire individuals, especially when they, like I said, I started going up the ladder. So I began as a sorcerer, but then I became a technical recruiter. Then I moved to level 6, which meant I was recruiting managers and directors. So just I was on a managerial level. I said, I can't believe this, and it really happened when one of the managers had to leave. One of my managers had to leave on an emergency, and I remember she just said, Natalie, the only thing I'm going to ask you is, I'm not going to ask you to make hires. All I'm going to ask you is, do not let my pipeline go down. So pretty much, don't let all the work that I've been doing for months, just because I have to leave. And I'm like, no pressure. No, of course not. I had to handle my own thing. I had to handle hers. Well, it was a blessing in disguise, because when she came back, she didn't only find that her I guess the state of her work was stable, but it was also high, a little higher. I'm not gonna lie here, oh, I did better than
Mhm.
her, never. But I think that's when she realized, wait, there's something with this person. So by the time I left Amazon, when I decided, which I'm going to go back to that and how it happened, but when I transitioned here, she contacted me when she became head manager. She said, Natalie, I want you to come to my team. To me, that meant the world to me. I was like, wait a second, you are contacting me. I already left Amazon, and you still find me valuable enough now that you went up the ladder to have me in your team. And I gotta be honest, that didn't happen only with her. It also happened with one of the co-workers that I had, who he was a much higher level than I was, but then he became a manager. And months, no, like 2 years later, I got this email from him, Natalie, are you interested? Just joining and I said, I'm no longer at Amazon. That just goes to tell you, like, for me, it was very difficult in the sense, when I was, again, going back to when I was a recruiter there, to Joy's point, the culture is so difficult, so cutthroat, so, in my opinion. But at the same time, when it comes to the level of skills that you get at a company like that, it's something that, in my opinion, has been extremely valuable to this day. But that's also the reason why I said I don't like recruiting. I was now in a position to make decisions in my life. I had
Hmm.
options. For the first time in my life, I had options. Given my background, which it's a really long story, so we're not going to get there too much, but I found myself with options. And then I said, Natalie, what are you going to do? And I couldn't believe I had that option. I couldn't believe I could actually say that to me, to myself, and have resources to back up whatever it is that I wanted to decide.
Can I say a
So
couple
I
of
said,
things really quick? I'm sorry.
yeah, go ahead.
Number one, I'm hoping, I mean, we don't have a large audience. I'm hoping we do one day, but the people that watch, I'm hoping they're moved by who you are and how you are, because there are so many people that don't have that capability. We did a podcast with one gentleman, his name is Chris Roberts, and we always talk about mental health, because mental
Oh,
health
yeah,
in every single aspect of our lives, cybersecurity, whatever it is, mental health is one of the most important things. And a good portion of us, including myself, we have our issues with mental health. We often
mhm,
wonder, are we doing the right thing? Are we succeeding? But one
yeah,
thing I'm going to applaud you about is when it got tough, you didn't fold. You kept going. And that is so important for people to hear. And it doesn't mean that everybody is going to be reflective of your success. But I believe two things. I'm not really a person that is really religious, but I do believe that there's a higher being, and maybe that higher being was looking out for you. But two,
yes,
I also
I believe
believe you made your own success as well. So I applaud you. And the other thing I'm going to say is, I am so upset, even though you were such a nice person, that I felt that person took advantage of you. Because one of the things I hear often, I talk about being an EMT, and this has nothing to do with the social work aspect of it, but as an EMT, we never tell everybody everything's going to be okay. We say we'll do the best we can. However,
that.
you needed hope at that point, and you wanted somebody to give you hope, and he did not give you hope. He was like, "Why would you do that?" That's You needed hope at that point. So thank God, thankfully, you made your own success and your own hope. You kept it positive as much as you can, and I'm sure during those times of positivity, and I don't want to speak on behalf of you, but I know I would have cried. So I know you had your downtimes
I
also.
cried. I cried. I think I cried during one of the interviews, but they didn't notice. That was, like I said, I was in a state of panic,
Hmm.
literally,
Yeah,
constantly. But thank you,
anxiety.
Adam. I
Well,
was in it just
God bless
again.
you. God bless you.
Well, at the same time, unfortunately, the person I consider my mom, she was dying at the hospital out of
Sorry.
pancreatic cancer. So I had, and I think again, when I go back to where my mind was in such an altered state. It was constantly like, you just need to do things so right because you have very little time wherever you see. As soon as I left work at Amazon, I will go straight to the hospital. Again, she died. She died before she saw my transition into cybersecurity. But I remember, like, I was juggling those two things, meaning being in again in a way just getting stable or just getting acclimated to this new career mindset, this new company, but at the same time getting ready for her death because it was coming. But at the same time, I'm also still a single mom, and I think that was it. I said, okay, you know what? There's nothing I can do with my mom. This is happening. I think like that a lot. I feel like I'm very logical in that sense, but and it's like there's nothing I can do other than to honor her through my progress. But at the same time, for me, when you said, Natalie, how come you didn't let yourself break? And I said, I think I was doing these while I was broken. I was still, and I believe in that. I said, so many people believe, in my opinion, that you have to be well to do things well.
No,
I was not well and I was doing things well. And I think it's like sometimes through your brokenness, there is when you accept it. And I said, I am in pieces inside. My mom is dying. I'm still I'm suffocating in my own fear whether I'm going to make this or not. Because the reason why I couldn't let myself fall into pieces, which was the only thing I feel like I didn't let happen, but inside of me I was broken, um, is the fact that if I let that happen, my daughter wouldn't be able to eat. Like I
of
don't have
course.
family here. Like I said, there is. That's why I said I had no choice. And but I do believe that the strength of motherhood, right? To me, when I now, my daughter has been the engine of everything I do. The reason of everything that I have done is has been her, because I, as parents, I don't know if you guys are parents, it's like you are okay struggling yourself, but you don't want your kids to struggle. That's why you do everything that you do. So it's the same for me. I'm like, I know how hard my life has been. Well, if I don't change it, then my daughter's is going to have a really difficult time. It's just the way it is. The cycle is going to continue. So for me, knowing that my mom was, what she was technically my aunt, knowing that my aunt was going to be out of the picture soon, I just kind of had this numbness in me. It's like, you know what, just have this I had this mentality, just get things done. There's nothing else you can control, Natalie. Just get things done. As soon as you leave this job, go to the hospital, talk to the doctors, make sure she has the pain medication, everything that she needs. Just be there for her. Go back home, cook, take care of Sophia, and go back tomorrow morning to work and do what you need to do, and do it. And don't think, are you tired? I literally try not to engage in too much of like emotional thinking, because I knew there was, I was not going to be able to hold it out. It could really turn me into pieces. It could just break everything that I was working for. So it took me a long time for me to let that, to release that, and to just allow myself to grieve. It took me years actually, to allow myself to grieve what I went through with her, what I went through with my own drastic change, because I had to let a lot of people go. Parts of myself had to go, because am now in this completely different life, completely different mindset, completely different schedule, completely different area, everything. But again, there's a grieving process that I didn't allow myself to go through, because I couldn't. I was focused on being very robotic. You have to get things done.
How did you prepare yourself? So now you transitioned from a recruiter to cybersecurity. Now I'm sorry, I'm
Yes.
just so interested in what did you do to get that knowledge in cybersecurity? Did you do the same thing? Did you rip into books? Did you go online? Did you look at
Yes and
YouTube?
no. Yes and no.
Hang on. Let's back up a little bit first, because
Oh,
first
okay.
of all, Natalie, I'm blown away by this story. This is
Me
amazing.
too.
You got to write a book, and we haven't even heard the whole thing yet.
That's what I'm saying.
Oh
But
Yeah.
my God. That's a,
but
every okay. Go ahead.
but but before you started studying, what made you start looking into cybersecurity? Because I
Yeah.
mean, you start in social work, you go to Amazon as a recruiter, kind of chose the toughest mountain to climb you possibly could, not just
Uh-huh.
going into the corporate world, but one of the toughest companies to get into. Like you said, the most cutthroat. When you're there, you get there,
Oh,
you do
it
well,
was,
and then you
yes,
decide, okay, time for another career change. I mean, and
yes.
you choose cybersecurity, which is also not an easy field. I mean, so how
Oh,
did you kind of get to there and then start working on that?
how did it happen? Again, I had options. So I,
Hmm.
I was, the pandemic happened, but in the pandemic happened, and I'm really glad to say, in one of the best positions in my life, which I had options. Like I said, I know it might sound like a, but for someone that grew up without many options and then became a mom, and realized my options are so limited. When I found myself with options, and options was, I have resources, I have money, I have savings. That's what I mean by options. And I said, Natalie, from here, either you stay in this company and you continue. I was a contract, but I was already given the choice. Natalie, if you want, you can apply to become permanent. But I had so many terrible experiences at that job. And part of that was the culture, big part of that. A lot of, from sexual harassment all the way to,
Oh my
just
God.
just
Oh,
really
really?
difficult. And
Is that where?
yeah, and
Oh,
it's,
interesting.
and I gotta say, it was nothing. It wasn't there. I mean, sexual harassment happens almost in every industry. I've been in what, three different industries now. So, but it was not only that. It was just the individuals I was working with, the type of managers that I had, just in the amount of hours I was put in a week. So, but also the nature of the job, my personality. I didn't like the fact that I had to chase people. And obviously I was very observant. Again, I'm coming from this process I created in pretty much came from observation. Yes, the books gave me a foundation. The training I took in New York, this gentleman that I contracted, it gave me a foundation. But everything really comes from how observant you are. How are you retaining information? So I'm trying to be very observant through this process that I'm in, to the job that I have, the processes that I'm working with. And I said, wait, what are these people? I was very focused on the people that I was hired to go after. I said, wait, so I started noticing, I said, I want to do that. I want to be in a position where people call me.
Wait.
I want to be. So
So
that's when
yeah,
it started. I started,
so you saw the jobs that you were recruiting for. You saw what they were getting paid, and you said,
I
"Wait,
was getting paid to get
Wait,
these
that's
no,
people.
no,
I
that's
said,
no,
wait,
better.
no." But I'm saying you said, "Oh my God, I have a rec for this job, and they're gonna get paid that much. Wait, I can do that."
no,
Oh no.
no, I didn't really process it that way or
Oh,
rationalize it that way.
that's how I did. Yeah.
That's how you did it?
No. Well, look,
Oh, I thought it was
my first job in cybersecurity was a company that Joe worked at. I was always into security, but I got a job in security, and Joe inherited me as an employee. Joe was my boss. That's how we met. And Joe always liked to tell people, I never hired Adam. I inherited him.
That's right.
oh my God. So anyway, for me, so we have to go back to when Sophia was like 4 years old. And I've always been very busy. Like I like staying busy, especially learning things. Like I don't know. I'm very curious in nature. And if you tell, for example, right now you talked about that chocolate egg.
Egg cream. So yeah, it just
So
there's
I
no egg in
know
there. No egg in there. Go ahead.
so I know when this ends, that's one of the things I'm going to look up because I'm curious. I like if I that's my nature. So that goes back to Sophia was 4, so it's like I don't know, back in 2000, maybe 2016, 2014, I don't know. Anyway, I did take a boot camp back then for networking, but it was one of those boot camps that didn't have any labs. Like it was like no hands. It was just, in my opinion, it did have labs, but it just. I remember I spent 8 months there, and I got very little out of that. It's also again, I was separating at the time. I was working 2 jobs, so but I started doing this research and I heard about technology and people just being able to get into technology through boot camps. Well, for me, I took this boot camp, nothing happened. 2 years later, I am hired at this nonprofit organization. This was before me starting working as a social. I've always been a social worker, but I was not working directly with families as I had at that time. So anyway, I got hired to work at this nonprofit organization in Elizabeth, and I remember I was the programs coordinator, I was the HR, and in-house IT, and I was like, I was very honest to the gentleman who was hiring me, and I said, IT, yes, I did take a course. And he's like, Natalie, your terminology is already telling me that you know more than anyone in here. So yes, you're going to be in charge. And I was like, okay,
Wow.
sure. So I didn't have to do much, to be honest, but that was my first experience with a ransomware. So we got
Ooh.
hit with a ransomware attack, and we hired these. We had a third party company who was supposed to be patching our systems. And long story short, I remember I'm just seeing the entire incident response process. And I am experiencing a real cyber attack. I'm seeing like the computers are getting encrypted and this messages popping up telling us, the Bitcoin that we. Anyway, so I'm seeing the whole process and that stayed in my mind. But I never really thought, oh, I'm going to get into technology. After that job, I went back to social work because I did try to get something in technology. But again, it was so difficult. It was because, again, my experience was so limited, but it stayed in my mind. Okay, it stayed in my mind. I also took that course back in 2016. So when I'm on Amazon, this is coming back to me. I am recruiting these individuals. I'm chasing them, calling them, emailing them, and I'm seeing some of the qualifications. And I said, wait, some of them didn't go to college for these. So some of them were coming from boot camps. And I remember when we were in Seattle in this huge meeting, we literally are being told, I was assisting on InfoSec recruiting. And I remember we were specifically told, look for individuals that are graduating from these boot camps. And I'm like, so we asked, so no degree, like no, for this role. So again, I'm observant. I'm keeping all these things in my mind. When the time came for me, the pandemic happened, we got laid off. I was told, Natalie, don't worry. In August, we most probably gonna call everyone back. But that's when I said, do I want to go back? And I said no. So I had already, before, through the entire thing, even with my aunt, I had this in the back of my head. And I said, can I transition the same way I did? Can I transition into
Hmm.
technology? So I had already done some research on certain boot camps. Long story short, I decided, if I don't do this now during the pandemic, I'm never going to be able to do this. Because one of the biggest challenges I had is, who's going to take my daughter to school? Who's going to be able to cook and pick her up? Like right now, she's home with me. She's going to school from home. I can do everything from home. So I said, if it's not now, it's never. So I did it. I said, I already had identified certain places that I knew were reputable. I had already looked at. So I took all that information, put it on a paper, and just said, okay, I just need the loan now. And that's what I did. It was one of the most difficult. You guys think Amazon was difficult? No. I feel like after my daughter, the most difficult thing was transitioning into cybersecurity. I swear to you guys. For me,
Well,
was
you're a
yes.
little unique. Most people who say going into cybersecurity already have a background in something related, in
Well,
something
Yeah.
closely related. In
there's
in fact,
only
in fact, when a lot of people ask me, they even before the era of cybersecurity degrees and stuff, they say like, and these are usually IT people. They say, "How do I get into security?" I go, "Start by becoming an expert in two or three things in IT, and then go in." But to go into that with wow from something completely different again is very unusual, and I imagine it's not easy.
I think you have to be a little bit crazy too. You have to
well, I'm
be,
definitely crazy. That's another story. But
it was very difficult. But I think it's also, I was I feel like a part of me wasn't in this transforming, just like I need, if I'm already doing this, Natalie, where do you want to see yourself? You already started, things are working out. You already have this mindset that has given you, again, I got into recruiting with the most brokenness that I remember in me. Again, I'm coming from the lowest part of my life. So I feel so inadequate. I feel, but then I start seeing the result of my work. So that's increasing my self confidence that I haven't felt in years, probably. So I think I was also leveraging the self confidence in a way, and also my aunt. By the time she was already passed, she already died, and so I found myself in a very unique position, in the sense that my daughter was home. I already feel confident that no matter how difficult things are, I can do it.
Mhm.
Because if I was able to do it while my aunt was dying, and I'm just coming out of like all the situations, and I said, you're not in the same space, Natalie. You're not in the same position. Things are easier. You have now savings. You have your daughter's here. This is easier. So I think I just took a lot of strength, and I leveraged a lot of the mentality and the mindset and the I guess increased um, self confidence that I had from the process that I experienced at Amazon, that I said I can do this. I guess I never expected how difficult it was going to be. It was just so difficult.
you
So
lever
Really, it was.
so for me it was very difficult. Yeah, the
So what did you
transition was.
take, and how long did it take you to kind of educate
So the
yourself
boot
in
camp was,
security?
for me, it lasted almost 8 months. It was supposed to be
wow.
as 4 months, but I had to do it twice because the first time I failed.
Oh,
I failed. I didn't feel. I didn't feel. I mean, I didn't. How did you didn't fall? Anyway, I didn't make it not for long. So it was, I remember I was off maybe like 10 points and I couldn't believe it. I said, guys, it's just like this. Like, Natalie, we can't do it. We can, you have to retake it or you just drop it
Did you
here.
have to pay it again?
No, I had to pay only a fee. So only like $2,000 more. And I'm like, okay, that I don't care. I'll go for it
Well,
again.
I mean,
Still,
God bless
that's
you
yeah.
for your for your momentum and for your tenacity. I just want to say one thing, Natalie. We had another woman on the show. Her name, we call her Gab Smash, and she was a nurse that
Wow,
transitioned into cybersecurity, and that's
that
a
must be
story in itself. If you get a chance, look at that episode. It's not exactly
yes.
the same as you, but she went from being a nurse into cybersecurity, and now she's going to law school.
Oh, how beautiful. Oh my God. Definitely, I'm going to watch that episode for sure. I need that type of inspiration. So, I think that's what it was. Anyway, it was very difficult, but again, I feel like I already had some like a scaffolding. Like I had already built something in my mind that I feel, and I still feel that way, that I feel that that's all you need in order for you to take on challenges. I'm not saying in order for you to be successful, because I don't consider myself a successful person, but I'm just grateful that things have worked for me. And it come from that mentality where it's like, in a way, I'm going to say it in a raw way. I'm going to put it in raw words. It's like, you just have to be okay with walking through hell. And you just have to accept hell for what it is. It's going to be painful, but it's momentarily.
Success is not based on how much money you're making or do you have a house or don't have a house. Success is based on your achievements. And as you move forward, there might be little achievements, there might be great achievements. And I know
Yeah.
some people are going to listen and say, Adam, BS, success is based on how much money you're making and stuff. It's not. You have a positive mindset, you're taking care of your kid, you're doing what you want to do, and you're successful at it because you keep on achieving. Even if you fail,
Thank you.
even if you fail, it doesn't mean you're not achieving. It just means that you have to take another step. And people
Yeah.
often, unfortunately, too much focus on their failures than their successes. If you keep on focusing on failures, you're never going to get
Yes.
anywhere.
100%. So when I found myself with choices, I made the choice that I said I want to have people calling me asking, "Do you want to work for us?" I really wanted to be in the position that I found myself just pretty much chasing after people. I said, "I whatever it is, Natalie, put yourself there. What's the easiest pathway for you, because you cannot go to school right now. I cannot invest 4 years. I mean, I had savings, but not for year savings. You know what I mean? So when I found at Amazon that at these levels they're recruiting people they're coming from a boot camp, that motivated me a lot. So anyway, there at the boot camp, I failed the first time, the second
Then you
time
pass.
around.
Right.
But one of the greatest things that was given to me at the boot camp was this one project. I remember by the time, again, because I had a little bit more experience than my peers on the second cohort, um, they came. We came. I came at top two when it came to the red teaming projects and pen testing. I was the top two. So I remember one of the instructors came and said, "Natalie, I'm going to give you the 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 MITRE attack framework with the Red Canary Atomic Red Team project." I
Wow.
remember, guys, it took me 15 days, over a week, almost 15 days, just to understand what in the world was I given, just to
Did
understand it. And I
did
said,
did you realize that at the time that he had, like, for security, he had basically given you the equivalent of like a Formula One car. That's basically it. Yeah.
I go back to me being interviewing at Amazon. I'm like, I don't know what I'm seeing. I think this is normal. I remember all the ones were given Bloodhound, they're given Wireshark, and he
Mhm.
gave me the Atomic Red Team, the Atomic Red Team project. I thought it was really cool, but I remember just having such a hard time just understanding. Again, I don't get me wrong, I'm understanding the terminology, I'm understanding the bigger picture. But then I'm like, how do you deploy the scripts? Wait, what do you? in a matter of minutes, you can actually deploy or mimic a certain attack. What? How? So anyway, a month passed because we had a month and a half, I think, to finish that project. And I gotta be honest, I had another gentleman helping me. We both did it very well, but I continued working on that project myself after the boot camp. I continued, I had my lab at home and I'm just building
Wow.
more and more attacks. And because that's not emulation, that's simulation. So I'm simulating more and more attacks. And I happen to start now applying for jobs. And I got called by this one red teaming company. And well, long story short, I made it. I cleared the interview with them as an
Mhm.
emulation, threat emulation engineer, I believe the title was. I
Mhm.
couldn't believe it. Of course, I was hired as a junior. So I learned so much about the purple team framework with this one company. And it was one of the biggest blessings. They were very much aware that I was coming, from a boot camp. But I remember during the interview, the interviewer was, okay, usually we do this in a second interview, but your interview is going so well. He said, oh my God, the feedback was just so beautiful.
Wow.
And he said, why don't you move right now, Natalie? Just tell me, if I were in front of you and you're going to present this tool, how would you do it? So again, remember with Amazon, I had already asked them, the recruiter, what should I prepare? Like the craziest thing I should prepare is like, Natalie, you
Mhm.
should prepare also to present this tool if they ask you, but that must be on the second or third interview. She said that. Well, I prepare as if it was for the first interview. So by the time he said, "Can you do it right now, without preparing? Don't say anything. Tell me how." And I remember I said, "Okay." I started talking about Rec Server 32. And I'm just talking about the process, and I'm talking about MITRE attack framework and what the attack framework is and what are the sub techniques of a particular. And the guy was like, "That's it. Natalie, you did very well. We'll let you know." And the recruiter was like, "Oh, she's also interviewing for other places." Wait, what? Is that true? Okay, so give us 1 hour, Natalie. You're gonna hear from us in 1 hour. And they extended the offer.
So
And
Natalie,
that
I know
I
people in
know.
Oh
I know
gosh.
people in
No.
red. I know red team people. I know them personally. I try to get a job, and they wouldn't even talk to me. You don't even know the people, and they offer you a job.
That's
I
amazing.
don't know what to say.
God
I
bless
mean,
you. Joe knows what I'm
Well,
talking about.
that is pretty
I
good.
I
Boy.
spoke to this Israeli company that does a lot of red teaming around the world and blue teaming, whatever. And I'm like, hey, give me a job there. Like, you don't want to, nah, no.
so
So
it wasn't easy again, but again, I think I learned so much about. I'm not going to pretend here that I learned all the pen testing here or even emulation in general utilizing that particular tool,
Nobody
but I did
can.
learn so much about the framework that to me has been the basis of everything that I learned in cybersecurity. It always comes on top of that framework that I learned. It's like, okay, it's collaboration, clarity, just understanding processes, people, and technologies. It's like everything that I have learned has building up. Oh, so I'm really grateful because in a way, I had the opportunity to enter cybersecurity from like an eagle eye perspective, right? Because purple teaming is giving you this holistic view of cybersecurity, and I feel very grateful in that sense that I was able to see, at least understand the very principles of cybersecurity from that perspective, because that was everything that was absorbing at the time. Like I'm ingesting all this information, is coming like, okay, it has
So,
to be this way.
so Natalie, it's clear that you have that perseverance. I think Joe's probably going to ask the same question I might, but what's next for you? What are you looking to do? Because I think we're kind of wrapping up a little bit, but what's next for you in your career, or what's your next goals?
Well, so that process, so this is really beautiful too. The process that I developed to transition from social work into recruiting and then recruiting to cybersecurity that became a framework that I have been sharing for the past 3.5 years
Oh
with the
wow.
Women in Cybersecurity, the military branch. So this process now is a methodology that I've been sharing not only with, again, WISES, the military branch, but also at universities. I've been asked to speak at different boot camps. And I've been now hosting now this year's every other month. Last year we had it every month, and it's how when individuals are trying to change careers. So I developed this methodology that I and again, at the time I didn't think I was developing anything. I was just helping
Mm-hmm.
myself. I was just helping myself to get out of the situations I had. But then when I already found myself in cybersecurity, I had so many individuals that I went to school with, to the boot camp, like, Natalie, we haven't been able to find a job. And I said, hey, honey, just try this. This is what I did. And then I started noticing, oh my God, this works so well. And I started sharing it with other people. That's when I realized whatever process I developed, which is, it was in a way reversing many of the processes that I use as a recruiter myself. And I said, okay, instead of finding candidates, I'm going to find jobs. I'm going to put myself in the position of a recruiter. So what's next, to answer your question, Adam, is expanding on that. So I am very grateful that I have been able to support the industry. Not only that, I'm grateful for the industry for what it has given me personally, but I also feel so grateful that I can give back and say, I am here because of individuals that believed in me, gave me an opportunity, but also because of this process that again, I didn't think I was creating anything, but it was a thing, very much a thing. And it has been helping so many people. I meet with some of them one-on-one for them, the ones that might need a little bit more attention. But I provide the classes, and we have this beautiful agenda. And during the workshop, it's also about mindfulness, the mindset that a person should have, how to see struggle as an opportunity when possible, and sometimes how to accept things for what they are. But that's what's nice. I also have my own nonprofit organization, is GIA Community, and we also provide cybersecurity assistance, especially to individuals also to struggling with addiction. So one of the things that I first came in contact with, again, remember I said I am a social worker in cybersecurity. I started noticing that, unfortunately, especially on the red team side, I came across so many individuals struggling with different type of addictions in
Really?
the yes, in cybersecurity,
Wow.
but mostly on the red team side. So again, I come
That's
from my
interesting.
organization. Yeah, my organization provides Narcan, right? For it's
Yeah.
pretty much the antidote to reverse overdoses. We provide it locally. So right now, I was given the opportunity to go to this conference, the cybersecurity conference in Philadelphia, and I put my booth, and I put so like hundreds of kits of Narcan. That was such a hit. People were so grateful that we're spreading awareness in the industry for all. So through cybersecurity, we not on my organization, not only we provide Narcan to people when needs in other states, but also locally, we provide a lot of cybersecurity awareness training at different local libraries. And at the same time, one of the biggest projects that I've been working on directly is going to different high schools and middle schools and just helping the kids be more safe online and just have larger awareness on cybersecurity in general, and also as a choice, as a field. And I also provide um, awareness on the different entry path. Okay, if you cannot go to college, did you know that there's boot camps? So people are mind blown to learn about the different ways into cybersecurity. But I do put a lot of emphasis that they need to be responsible. This is an industry that requires, in my opinion, we need people that are committed, that are committed to making this space better. And so I do try to balance both. Yes, it's going to make your life better, but at the same time, we need you. Like, we need you committed, because there's a lot to do in this space. So that's what's next for me. It's just seeing how much I can give back, because I'm a social worker at heart, and it just happens that I love technology. Simply it's also because of the way I'm a logical person, so it really goes well with my own personality. But at the same time, it's like there's so many opportunities to help and give back. And I just happen to I'm grateful to have so many resources that come from my own organization. I've been running it for the past 8 years.
God bless you.
And in the past 2 years locally, so there's two brands that we run with, two brands: GIA Cyber, which is pretty much everything cyber, and Grace in Action, which has been the pretty much everything in local. And we provide drive. So just this last Saturday, we had over 200 families joining us where they got diapers, we got formula, food, clothes, books, and we put up so many different events through the year. And it's really also help is being in this space is helping me to provide more support locally as well, and vice versa. So for me, what's next is growing in my career as a cybersecurity engineer and growing my organization and being continue providing as much as we can. So our slogan is, if we can, we should. And just to give you a real highlight on that, it's like my dad, when I was struggling so much, my dad called me. He lives in Colombia, and he's like, Natalie, why do you keep doing this? You barely can, like, you, why do you keep helping people when you're barely able to help yourself? And I remember I just, this came out of nowhere, and it made so much sense to me. And I said, Dad, because if I can, then I should do it. That's it. That was my answer to him. Not much logic to it. So when the moment came, and Natalie, we need a slogan. If we can, we should.
Yeah,
That's it. People
but
ask
Well,
me, why do you do it?
I was thinking as you went through this and saying you're doing it for 8 years, besides everything we heard about, like, do you sleep? I mean,
I do
seriously.
actually, but
so
you do.
yeah,
I think I have in my opinion, when people look at me like, oh, she's constantly working. Not really. I just came from Poconos. I go to the Poconos at least every other week. I do
Wow.
try to
Okay.
keep my mind, as clear as possible in order for me to give the best I can. So I'm very mindful of what's in here and what's bringing me down. And sometimes just going into nature is all I need. Sometimes a nice a nice meal, intentional, not just eating, oh, I'm eating delicious. No, I'm intentionally having a good time. I'm creating the space because I've worked so much and I can feel I'm just going, kind of crazy. So I have a background in mental health, and then through social work, I've dealt with lots of mindfulness. And also in my own personal life, I was on a 10-year journey going through different religions, exploring different mentalities in schools of thought. And I think that has been so instrumental on, you know, just, I guess I have been given through my own personal journey and explorations of so many different modalities and religions and philosophies. I've been given tools that help me analyze myself when it's like, okay, Natalie, you need to disconnect and you need to do something. So I think that's what really helps me to maintain the balance on all the things that I do, is the fact that mental health is imperative.
so one comment and one question. The first comment is your dad said it coming from a good place, right? He was worried about you, he was concerned about you. And I applaud you because helping others helps yourself and also makes you feel good about yourself and gives you that ambition, that drive. And the question I have for you is, and it might be a direct, maybe a personal question, and feel free not to answer it, but do you feel that your framework that you developed has it helped a lot of other people? Have they been successful in? Have they found the same success that you have found?
In cybersecurity, like, you
Or
mean the
however the framework works, is a framework specifically for cyber and cyber only, or is it a framework
no,
for achievements? That's what I meant.
it's a framework that it's mostly for individuals that work in technology, not precisely cybersecurity. It can also, I mean, I just so the framework has a life cycle, right? And it's really mirroring the life cycle of a recruiter, but it's also, part of the life cycle of this framework is creating your own work experience, which is so crazy. And I have one the most beautiful and most influential feedback that I've gotten in my life and career wise was given to me during the interview with the first company that I ever interviewed with. It wasn't the first company that I landed, which it was between those two companies. I was interviewing, I made it to the last. And he said, it's been 30 years since I've been interviewing people, and this is the first time I come across someone that created their own work experience in such a relevant way for cybersecurity and for low income communities. So he was like, just the way you think. So because of the feedback that this gentleman gave me. Again, he is a director at one very large organization, and I just happen to be working at that organization now. Almost 4 years later, they contacted me
Wow.
again, and I'm working as it's just beautiful, the whole experience. But going back to you, Adam, yes, now the framework, it has the different, you could say, different modules, so people choose. I always say to individuals, if you find yourself like, I need this ASAP, do it exactly as I do it, because that's when I have seen people really, like the first individual that I gave it to, and I was like mentoring her in 90, she was over 90 days looking for a job. It took her only 27 days. She was the fastest person. I said, oh my God, you literally landed this job in 27, way faster than me. The second person, it took him 2 months, but he was already looking for 6 months. So that's when I started noticing, because I don't believe in putting noise. We have a lot of noise out there. So one of the modules is creating your own resume. And I always say to individuals, this one, there's amazing information out there. I'm just putting this module here for awareness of what is needed. But don't take it as, oh, but that's what I'm saying. The framework, it's a fusion between my own knowledge and in social work. And this is creating your work experience. I went into communities and I said, I have some skills in technology and I'm willing to volunteer because I need hands-on experience. But at the same time, I knew how much low-income communities need, how much help they need when it comes to security, when it comes to individuals with technical skills. Why? Because I experienced that ransomware. So because of all my experiences in all these industries, I came and I pretty much put it all together without knowing at the time that I was creating a framework that it was going to be helping people. I was trying to help myself. And I just happened to utilize, again, pulling from the knowledge that I had built in different domains, things that were relevant. So to me, that word relevant, it's just, it has to be that way. I can come here and say, oh, it's the best framework ever. No, it's not. It's a framework that has worked for people. And the people that I have noticed that have really been, committed to the framework, they're hired. They were hired. So that's why I decided, I said, let me put this out there and just share it, I guess at a larger scale. So I've been receiving beautiful feedback. And yes, I mean, for individuals that found themselves completely not being able to get any traction from recruiters to getting hired in a much faster time than they expected it, to me, that's success. And it's the same framework that I still use when I'm going to transition to a different job within the same industry. So,
Wow.
Wow.
and it's
Okay.
still breathing. It's a breathing and living thing. As soon as I come up to a different method, I said, let me just tweak it here because
Mhm.
it's part of a life experience. So if I'm noticing that something could be better, I share it in the same way.
Very
Yes.
nice.
All right. Well, Natalie, your story is really extraordinary.
When's the movie coming
It's
out?
there's quite a bit to it. Gosh, that is amazing. And I'll tell you, we haven't even touched on some of the other things that we've talked about. Or you mentioned that we've
Yeah.
talked a lot about mental health and cybersecurity. Hearing about that and
Yes.
the addiction, which is not talked about by anyone.
Yes.
That's
Yes.
really interesting, and a lot of your outreach to people, teaching them about cybersecurity and the whole thing of how you're integrating your
Yeah. I
social
used.
work. I'd love to say, will you come back? Can we do this again? I mean,
We
I
can.
really want to
Yeah.
hear more
I
about it.
said no. Yeah. Of course.
Okay.
I
Well,
was talking to Adam the first time. Remember Adam? But you were also telling me that your background is that it was an EMT. So I think when you have a heart for communities, then you enter into cybersecurity and you realize it's a community. It's just a cyber community, but it's still a community. It behaves in many ways, especially when you get intimate in the community. Like when you open yourself up with people and say, if you need help, I have this background, and it's something I try to do. Everybody in that's in my Twitter, they know I am still very much a social worker, and I've worked with individuals. Adam and I were talking the first time with suicide prevention, rape cases. So I have people in the community that come to me and say, Natalie, we need more of these. And there are individuals. I connected with this lady a couple of months ago. She's like, Natalie, my manager asked me to come to your classes because we're also, and she's also in cybersecurity. And she's in the mindfulness side, like we're trying to do something very similar to what you're doing, because I believe that the industry is resonating highly with them. I feel like it's important for us to come out of our shells, and if you have a skill that is not related to cybersecurity, it might still very much related to the individuals that support this industry with their own skills. And I think that's what I try to do. Whatever
You
you
have
were just
homework.
saying that
Yeah,
too.
you have
That
homework,
is,
Natalie. Your homework is two things. One, watch the Gap Smash episode about how she transitioned from
Yes,
nurse
I am.
to cyber. Now she's going to become an attorney. And then the other one is, if you get a chance, watch the Chris Roberts episode where he talks about mental health and all. And
Okay.
if you're not following Chris Roberts on LinkedIn, maybe watch what he writes about, because he
yeah,
pours his
he
heart
posts a
out.
lot about mental health.
He
You'd find
Yeah,
it
I don't
really
think I
interesting. I
follow
think what
him.
we
No, I
do.
don't think I do.
he's
Yeah, I
yeah
want
He's
to.
really good.
he's
He's
really
good.
good. He talks about everything from riding his bicycle, that helps him mentally, to
Yeah.
talking about some of his issues, whether it's, I believe he has diabetes and other things,
Yeah.
and it takes a toll, and he constantly writes
Yeah.
about that.
Yeah,
And
he writes about it and talks about it very openly, and he's one of the few people in security who do actually. So it's pretty unique,
Yeah, I
and it's
really
something
do
we need
love
to
what
talk
I'm
about more.
seeing. I'm seeing this more and more. I also have her name is Elaine. Her last name is escaping me, but she has this beautiful talk on imposter syndrome related to mental health. And I said, wow, it's she's really been booming. I just love the fact that so many individuals are just coming out there and expressing their
Yeah,
challenges. And I feel like vulnerability is really, it unites us, right? We have sometimes this mentality where like we have to portray ourselves in such a perfect way, but none of us are perfect. And it's by exposing our vulnerabilities that we kind of like start lifting each other up. People can relate to you. We all have so many things that we can help each other if we just talk about it in a non-judgmental way. For those of us that worked in communities, that's something we learn, right? This, communities, it's exactly that. It's about unity. And if we separate ourselves by pretending that we are perfect all the time, how are people going to be able to connect? And I feel like we have such a beautiful community here. And I think the fact that I try to also be very vocal about my struggles, my story, has really made people feel more comfortable reaching out when they need help. And it makes me feel very grateful to be in the position of saying to someone, maybe I can help you, just give me the chance. As they also been doing that to other people. But we have to start somewhere. We have to start showing vulnerability in a mindful way.
so, three things I'll add to that. One, keep in mind we're absolutely perfectly imperfect. Number
Yes.
two, when you talk about your vulnerabilities, people seem to think about, wow, I feel like I'm the only one that has that problem. But as
Yeah.
people hear more and more about this, they realize, yes, a lot of people experience the same issues that I do. And people have to start understanding that we all have issues, we all have problems. And the more you open up about it, I think the more you're going to get an understanding from other people like yourself about what things are. There was a third thing, I forgot it already, but we are perfectly
Well, Adam, when you
imperfect.
start forgetting things, I think that means it's time to wrap it up.
Yeah,
I don't
but we are
know.
perfectly imperfect, Natalie. We really
Yeah.
are. There's
No.
nobody that has. Oh, and some of the most successful people in this world are having very serious issues. They look successful, and I'm not faulting them. I think there's a lot of great people out there, but just because they show such a success doesn't mean they're like ducks, right? On the surface, they look so good, but they're struggling also. So keep that in mind. Like when we speak to people that were like, "Oh my God, I idolize." Yeah, there's some really good people out there, but just also be aware that they're probably having issues too, and don't always think that they're doing okay. They might need help also.
Yeah. Yeah, no, you're very
That's
right.
very
It's
true.
exactly right.
Right. Well, a lot of people, we're not going to end on a downer. I'm going to say a lot of people are having more trouble than we think. But Natalie, you are definitely an example that
A shining light.
pull out of just about anything.
Thank you. Thank
And
you.
make something good. So thank you again for coming. This was really, really great to hear.
So I'm gonna come out to you
Thank you
guys
for
one day
inviting
in New Jersey, and we're gonna all get an egg cream
Oh my!
together. We're getting an egg cream.
I,
Stop, Joe. Stop.
I could tell
Stop.
Natalie, if you can get Adam to come to New Jersey, you have truly done the impossible.
I
I would
go
be
to
Really?
New Jersey
impressed.
all the time, but
Not to see me. You never come to see me. I come
I've
to
come
see
to
you
see
all
you
the
during the
time.
pandemic.
Like 3 years ago.
No, Joe, listen. I'll come out to see you, Joe. We'll meet up with Natalie. We're all gonna get an egg cream.
All right, fair enough.
We'll see. Fair enough. We'll see.
Okay.
We'll see if that happens.
Natalie, thanks again. Adam,
Guys.
Thank you,
always good
guys.
doing this with you. Okay, thanks everyone for listening.